Great. So in your previous classes, we have started with the solubility part. Okay. So we'll just revise once what we have done. Both, I will take it together. That is dissolution and solubility. Okay. So what was dissolution exactly? Dissolution, I told you, if you take a solvent and to this, if you are adding the solute. Okay. You have a solvent, you are adding the solute to this. Okay. And then forming a solution. That process is called as dissolution. So when dissolution happens, see, when you are adding more and more amount of solute into this, the concentration of the solute in the solution will start increasing. Okay. So this is dissolution. And what do you mean by solubility? Solubility means if you confine the solvent, okay, like if you take a particular amount of solvent, maybe now 1 liter, okay, yesterday I've taken 1 liter, same thing I will assume now. If I'm taking 1 liter, in that, what is the maximum amount of solute you can dissolve to form a solution? Okay, so then that will be called as solubility. So this you have learned, dissolution and solubility. These are the two things. And then after that, if you keep adding the solute to this particular solvent and they keep getting dissolved into this particular solvent, okay, you are adding the solute, they get dissolved. Again, you add a solute, they get dissolved. Okay, then such solutions are called as unsaturated solution. Okay, when you keep adding the solute and if they are taking that solute inside, they are allowing them to go inside and giving you a clear solution, then those solutions are unsaturated ones. Okay, but when you keep adding the solute, you know, one point will reach when they can't take it anymore. Okay, they will give it out because there is no more place available, so they will stay at the bottom like this. Okay, they will not be able to take it, so then no more solute can be dissolved in that particular solvent. Okay, so they settle down at the bottom. Then we say that saturation point has been reached. Okay, and the solution will be called as saturated solution. Saturated means where you can't add more solute. Okay, it's done, over, only this much is the amount which you can add. Okay, so then that is saturated solution. So this I have told you. Then after that, I told you in the saturated solution, okay, when the saturation is being reached, okay, there, that time what happens is these solute particles are there, no, these solute particles, they colloid among themselves. Okay, in that solution I'm talking about, in that solution, the solute particles which are there, they colloid with one another and then they come out in the form of crystals. Okay, so you are able to see in the saturated solution, why you are able to see the crystals? Okay, that is because of this reason. You can see on the another picture on this side, when you have a saturated solution, we say no more solute can get dissolved. Actually what happens is whatever goes no inside, same amount comes out. Okay, like the rate at which the solute goes into the solution, okay, the rate at which they are getting dissolved, at the same rate this solute particles which are there, they come out in the form of the solid. Okay, so both the things happens when it is happening, when they reach the saturation point. It doesn't happen in unsaturated. Okay, why it doesn't happen in unsaturated? Because there is enough of space. So when you have a solvent, okay, when you have a solvent, to that when you are adding the solute, okay, the reaction will start moving in the forward direction to form a solution. Okay, so they keep moving in the forward direction, but once it has been formed and then there is no more space, then from that solution this solute particles and the solvent particles will start coming out. Okay, so that is what we say equilibrium has been reached. Okay, so equilibrium can be reached only in the saturated solution. So in this case, the rate at which they are getting dissolved and the rate at which they are coming out in the form of the solid, that is crystallization, okay, will be equal. Then we say equilibrium has been attained. Yeah, now your doubt is if you dissolve crystal in the water, they will form a solution. Yes, if you add the crystal, they will get dissolved. Okay, they will go into the solution, but since there is no more place available, they will come out in the form of crystals. The rate at which they get dissolved, same rate other like other particles which are there, solute particles, they come out in the form of a solid. It won't be a dry crystal. There will be water particles also little here and there. They will be hydrated. Okay, and then like if you want to remove the water, then you have to like heat it a little bit, and then you can get anhydrous solution. Anhydrous salt, if you want to prepare, then you have to heat a little bit. Okay, otherwise you will get a hydrated one. Yes, till here it is clear, no, to everyone? Anything to ask, students? Whatever I've done, do you have any doubts to ask? Okay, so I told you about crystallization here. You can even prepare a crystal with a super saturated solution. Means more amount of solute will be added to the solvent, and then we allow them to cool. It takes time, okay, to prepare a crystal. If when the college starts, no, if I get a time, I will show you how crystals are formed, okay, how crystallization takes place. You have to prepare a super saturated solution, and then you allow them to cool. So then slowly this will start appearing in the form of a solid, okay. So that's how the crystals are formed. That process is crystallization. Now we'll move on with our next topic, the factor which depends on like the factors which affect the solubility. Okay, so solubility depends on many factor. One is the nature of the solute and the solvent. Second one, we have temperature, and the last one is pressure. So we are going to discuss each and everything. Okay, how these factors will affect the solubility of the solid. We are talking about the solid getting dissolved in the liquid. Okay, so first we will start with the nature of the solute and the solvent. Okay, so first one, the nature of the solute and the solvent. So here I've taken a picture. Can you see here? Ever wondered why that oil doesn't get dissolved in the water? They don't get mixed with each other, correct? No, this is one example which I have taken. Okay, they don't get mixed with each other. Even have you ever seen if you take salt and add it to the oil, salt doesn't get dissolved in oil. Salt will get dissolved in water, correct? No, see, I've given a picture of the other one where we have put salt, okay? A rock salt is added to the oil. So you see that how much ever you stir it, okay, whole day if you keep sit and stir it, it will not get dissolved in this, okay? They don't dissolve. So the reason for them is because of the intermolecular interaction. Okay, it depends on what kind of interaction is present between the solute and the solvent. So here, why this oil does, like the salt which is there doesn't get dissolved in the oil, because oil is having one kind of forces between them, and the salt is having one kind of forces. So their forces are opposite, okay, it's different. So that's the reason why they are not able to get dissolved with each other. They are not able to gel with each other. So if they want to mix with each other, then their intermolecular interaction should be similar, okay. So there is a basic idea which we follow, okay, that is according to this basic rule, like dissolves like. Okay, so if you have the same nature of the solute and the solvent, then only they will get dissolved with each other. Okay, so if their interactions are different, then they don't get dissolved with each other. Okay, we know that every solid doesn't get dissolved in a given liquid because of different interaction. Okay, so now here, remember, polar solute will get dissolved in polar solvent. Okay, like if you take now water and salt, okay, if I take salt and then dissolve them in the water, then you will see that salt will easily get dissolved in water, because salt by nature is polar and water by nature is also polar. Okay, salt, you know, there is a charge separation between them. They are made up of opposite ions, no, positive and negative ions. Okay, so NaCl, I've given a picture over here. You can see NaCl crystals are polar in nature because there is positive and negative charges. Okay, and then water also, you know, it's polar in nature, H2O. So if I have to draw the structure, you can see here H2O will have oxygen and then two hydrogen. So you know oxygen carries a partial negative charge because of their electronegativity, and hydrogen carries a partial positive charge. Both the hydrogen over here carries a partial positive charge. So due to this charge separation in them, okay, what this oxygen does is they will try to, see, this is negatively charged, so they will try to pull the positive charge toward themselves and then break the bond which is present between the Na and Cl, and then Na goes in a separate way and the Cl goes in a separate way. Okay, so that's, and then finally these water molecules will start surrounding this opposite ions. Okay, so that's how they get dissolved in the water. So polar solute can dissolve only in the polar solvent. Okay, so you can't expect the salt to get dissolved in the oil, because oil by nature is non-polar. Okay, there is no charge separation between them. You know, these compounds are covalent compounds. Oil is a covalent compound, no, whereas here these are ionic compounds. So ionic compounds will get dissolved in the polar solvents. Okay, so remember, polar will get dissolved in polar ones, and then non-polar solute will get dissolved in non-polar solvent. Like here, in the case of, see here, oil, if you take two oils, then two oil will get mixed with each other. So you can see here, okay, non-polar solid, if I take and dissolve them in the non-polar solvent, there is no breaking. Okay, like here I said NaCl. If you take NaCl, Na and Cl bond will be broken by this water. Okay, in this case, no, non-polar solute, there is no breaking as such happening. The only thing is these particles will come and sit in between them. Okay, and then they form a weak intermolecular force of attraction. You remember, no, between these non-polar compounds, what is the force of attraction which is existing? The weakest force of attraction which is existing between both of them? Between the non-polar, yes. Yeah, very good. Correct. Yes. It is London forces. Very good. Okay. Van der Waals force of attraction. Okay. London force, also called as dispersion force. So here between this solute particles and the solvent particles, okay, the weak force of attraction is existing. So again, when you dissolve them, they will form that weak force of attraction and then they get dissolved with each other. Okay, so there is no breaking. Okay, breaking doesn't happen, just that they form a weak force of attraction and get dissolved with each other. So two oils, if you mix with one another, they get dissolved with one another because of weak force of attraction. Okay, I believe this part is clear. Why certain compounds get dissolved in certain solvent. Okay, that's because of their similar interaction. So remember, the basic idea is like dissolves like. Okay, so your polar solute gets dissolved in polar solvent, whereas non-polar solute will get dissolved in non-polar solvent. Okay, in polar solute there is charge separation, positive and negative charges. So polar compounds only can break them. Okay, because of their opposite charges, they will get interacted with each other and break them apart, and then that's how they get dissolved. Okay, in the non-polar in this case, non-polar solute and the solvent, there is no breaking as such. Okay, it's because of the weak intermolecular force of attraction. Again, when they get dissolved and form a solution, they form a weak intermolecular force of attraction, and that's how they get dissolved with each other. If you want example, I will give you the example also. Okay, for polar solute getting dissolved in polar solvent, you can take example of sodium chloride in water, and then even sugar get dissolved in water. Remember, sugar is also polar in nature. Okay, sugar in water. And then here, for non-polar solute getting dissolved in non-polar solvent, you can take benzene. Okay, benzene is easily soluble in carbon tetrachloride. Okay, benzene in carbon tetrachloride. Most of the organic compounds are non-polar in nature. So if you know any organic solvent, you can take them. Okay, naphthalene, even naphthalene are there, no? Naphthalene balls is soluble in organic solvent. Okay, so they will be soluble in like this benzene and all, naphthalene and benzene. Yeah, like dissolves, like exceptions are there. Okay, it depends on, like, see, when these ionic compounds they go into the water, this water should be able to break the bond between this Na and Cl. Okay, lattice enthalpy we call them, no? So it depends on the lattice enthalpy also. Like if I take now calcium carbonate, you know, calcium carbonate is not that soluble in water, even though they are ionic compound, correct? So some carbonates are there which are not completely soluble. Okay, that is because of their lattice. Solubility is there, but very less, like very very dilute solutions will be formed. Okay, So carbonates are there, which are like little exceptional cases. Even though they are ionic, they doesn't get dissolved in water. Yes, okay. We'll go for the next one now. Next factor, that is temperature. Okay. So we have to see now whether temperature will have any effect on solubility of solid in the liquid. Okay. So, at normal temperature, room temperature, some of the solid will get dissolved. Okay. And then they will form a saturated solution. So once the saturated solution is formed, okay, then further if you increase the temperature, will they get dissolved? Okay. That is what we are talking about now here. When I'm talking about temperature, okay, uh, consider a saturated solution. When you increase the temperature, will that particular solid will get dissolved in the liquid or not? Okay, so in the saturated solution, what is being established? Usually equilibrium will be there. Okay, remember that. So there will be an equilibrium which will be established in the saturated solution. So I want you to recall some of the topics which we have discussed in equilibrium. Okay, I believe you remember equilibrium chapter because that was done during offline time, and I had revised also many times. So let's start with this now, effect of temperature. So when you take a solute, dissolve in the solvent and form a solution. So two things can happen, okay? You think every time this solid will get dissolved when you increase the temperature? There are two cases, okay, which can happen because when you dissolve a solute into the solvent to form a solution, either they will take the temperature within them or they will give out the temperature, okay, which we call as endothermic and exothermic. You have learned about this, correct? No, endothermic reaction and exothermic reaction. So first case I'm taking now here, if the dissolution means when you take a solute and dissolve a solvent into it and form a solution, okay, and if the reaction is endothermic, means if they are able to take the temperature inside, okay, in that case what will happen? Yes, very good. Le Chatelier's principle you have to remember now. Yes. So here, if the dissolution is endothermic, okay, you know what is endothermic? Where the heat is being absorbed, okay, they are taking the heat energy. So now here, when you take the solute and the solvent, okay, this heat will be taken inside by them. Okay, endothermic means they will take the heat energy and then the reaction will start moving in the forward direction. Okay, so as you are giving the heat, as you increase the heat, okay, what does Le Chatelier's principle says? Because this I said it is about the saturated solution. You remember Le Chatelier's principle, the change in any of the factor which determine the equilibrium condition will cause the system to change in such a manner so as to reduce or counteract the effect of the change. Means whatever you are trying to change, any factor you try to change in the equilibrium, they will try to reduce that effect by sending the reaction in the forward direction. So to the solute and the solvent, if you are supplying the heat energy, they have to reduce that heat energy. How can they reduce that heat energy? By sending them in the forward direction, means by forming the solution. Okay, so in the endothermic case, if you are supplying the heat, more amount of solution will be formed, means that heat energy will be taken and they will send them into the solution side. Okay, so in that case, this solute will get dissolved, to form a solution. So remember, in endothermic case, when you are heating, then solubility of that particular solute in the solution will start increasing. Okay, they will proceed in the forward direction. I believe you are able to get this point. Okay, I'm repeating once again. Endothermic reaction means where the substance will try to take the heat energy. Okay, so here when solute and solvent are dissolved, suppose if these solute and solvent absorb the heat energy, okay, in the saturated solution, then extra amount of heat you are supplying. So what the solution should do? Try to reduce that heat. No? So how can they reduce that heat? By sending them in the forward direction. So they will absorb that heat, break their bonds. Okay, solute particles bond will be broken, and then solvent, whatever interaction is there, that will be broken down, and then they will interact with each other to form solution. Okay, so that heat will be utilized there to break the bond, and then solution will be formed. Okay, so solubility will start increasing. Okay, more amount of solute and solvent, like more amount of solute will get dissolved in the solvent. But if the case is opposite, suppose if the dissolution is exothermic, means when the solute and the solvent react with each other to form the solution, in this case what is happening? See, extra amount of heat energy is given out. Still, if you increase the heat now, what will happen? See, already heat is given out. You can see here, heat is given out. Still, if you increase the temperature, okay, still you are providing the heat. So, the amount of heat will get increased over there. So, then what will happen? They will try to take that. They have to nullify that effect. No? So, what will they try to do? They will take that heat energy and go back to the backward direction. Yes, the reaction will start taking place in the backward direction. So that means what will happen to the solubility? Solution will not be formed. Okay. So they will try to stay in the solute and the solvent form itself. Okay. More amount of dissolution will not try to take place. Okay. So you have to remember, if dissolution is exothermic, then in that case, again, if you are trying to increase the temperature, then the solute particles will not get dissolved in the solvent. Okay, they will try to take that heat energy and go back to their form. Okay, solute and solvent form, they will try to remain there itself. Okay, so then in this case, solubility will start decreasing. So if you want any exothermic reaction to have higher solubility, then you have to reduce the temperature. Okay, if you decrease the temperature in exothermic case, only then solubility will start increasing. Okay, remember this point. So example for this endothermic reaction is sodium chloride. If you take sodium chloride and water, you increase the temperature, you will see more amount of sodium chloride gets dissolved in the water. For exothermic reaction, I can give you sodium hydroxide in water, or potassium hydroxide in water. Okay, these compound, sodium hydroxide pellets and potassium hydroxide pellets, if you take and dissolve in water, they liberate lot of heat energy. Okay, you touch the beaker and see, you will see they are quite hot because the reaction liberates heat energy. So in that case, if you want them to get dissolved more and more, then you have to decrease the temperature. Okay, did you follow this part? In the temperature side, what happens and how the solubility gets affected? Okay, anything to ask, you can ask students. Yes, okay, good. We'll go for next now. Next factor is pressure. Pressure on solubility of solid in liquid. What do you think? If we apply a pressure, then the dissolution will start taking place, means the solubility will increase. Like in this case, at home you try this. Okay, you have a saturated solution with you and you want to dissolve that salt into this water. From above you are trying to apply the pressure. Okay, somehow you are trying to apply the pressure. So when you apply this pressure from the upper side, you think the solid particles will start getting dissolved there? Pressure from the above side, you are trying to increase the pressure. You think it will affect the solubility? For solid, okay. This is for solid. Solid is over here, and then above over here, you are trying to apply the pressure. You think it will affect? No, there is no much effect. Okay. Why there is no much effect? Because you know solids are not compressible, no? Yeah, solids are not compressible, okay? They are highly incompressible. So that is the reason why practically this will remain unaffected, okay? So how much amount of pressure you apply also. If it was gas, then the concept will be different. Suppose if I had a gas above this and then if I apply a pressure, you know, gases are highly compressible. So if you apply the pressure, these gases will go inside this and then it will increase the solubility. But now the scenario is different. You are having a solid and you know with the solid, you can't apply the pressure. Okay, so because they are not compressible in nature, they are highly incompressible, so it doesn't affect much. Okay, so remember for pressure, it doesn't have any significant effect on solubility of solids in liquid. Okay, so you can write down this effect of pressure. Yes, students, now we are done with the solubility of solid in the liquid. We'll move on with the next one. That is solubility of gas in the liquid. Okay, so you can give the next heading, solubility of gas in the liquid. Again, we are going to discuss the factor on which the solubility of gas will depend on. Okay, so in that first one I've taken, that is effect of pressure. Okay, like if I have a solution now here, okay, you can see here you have a solvent. Let's take a solvent and above that there is a gas. Okay, so now initially if the pressure is very low, Okay, imagine you have applied a pressure, but then very less amount of pressure is been applied from the above side. Okay, then the number of molecules which are going to get dissolved, okay, into this also will be less number of molecules will get dissolved. But if you apply higher pressure, okay, high pressure if I'm going to apply, okay, same thing, but you apply higher pressure to this piston, okay. So the above piston we are applying higher pressure. So when you apply more number of pressure, what will happen? You know, gases are highly compressible. Since they are compressible, they will start moving downwards, okay. So here they can directly go into the solution. Since they are compressible, so more amount of gases which are there will try to get dissolved in the given solvent, okay. So then you will see more number of molecules will start getting dissolved, okay. So solubility, you are seeing as the pressure is being increased, the solubility of the gas is also increasing, okay. In the solid it doesn't happen because you know solids are not compressible, so you didn't find any change. But in the case of the gases, when the pressure is very low, less number of molecules will get dissolved. But when you are applying a higher pressure, okay, since they are compressible, more number of molecules can get dissolved, okay. You have seen even this aerated drinks which they prepare, the soft drinks are prepared like this only, okay. Carbon dioxide is taken above here, and then they take the sugar syrup, the solvent, okay, with the sugar and everything, and then they apply the pressure of this carbon dioxide and they make that gas to get dissolved inside this, okay. So that is the effect of pressure which we are observing. So I can say that solubility of the gas in the liquid is directly proportional to the pressure, okay. Like if you are talking about only one gas, then it will be the total pressure of that particular gas. Imagine if I have two gases present, okay. Imagine if there are two gases, then can I just write the pressure? That time two gases will be exerting the pressure. Do you remember, if two gases are exerting pressure, we make use of one word, okay. So that will be called as, yes, very good, correct, that is the partial pressure. Yeah, because two of them are exerting, so little pressure will be exerted by one gas and the remaining will be exerted by the another gas, correct, no? So it will be partial pressure, okay. This itself is called as Henry's law, okay, which was given by Henry, a scientist, okay. So he said that when you apply more amount of pressure, the solubility of the gas in the liquid increases, okay. So this is also called as Henry's law, okay. So I'm stating the definition there down. This is not the only statement, there is another one also that I will give you, okay, later. So first you write down this. I will be writing this statement here, okay. Henry's law, the solubility of a gas in a liquid is directly proportional to the partial pressure. I've written partial pressure because if there are two gases present, then it will be a partial pressure. If there is only one solvent involved, then only that pressure will be exerted, okay. So here partial pressure of the gas present above the surface of the liquid or solution. Okay, this is one statement. So it's easy to understand, when you have more pressure being applied, more amount of gas will get dissolved.